Hi, I'm Zach. I'm doing my video presentation on the essay that I previously submitted. My case study centers around Stephen Jasper, a 38-year-old Indigenous man. I applied the Chicago School social interactivism theory to this case study because I think it really illustrates how the people we interact with and what they think of us in our social environments influence who we become and can lead to a life of delinquency. So Stephen Jasper is a 38-year-old Indigenous man who has spent 10 years of his life, not consecutively, but in prison. Now, his story begins at a young age when he was abused by his parents domestically, and then later on he was sexually abused twice by two different adults in his life. This domestic abuse at a young age led to Stephen moving around a lot, being in a lot of different homes with different family members, which exposed him to a life of drugs and alcohol. Now, at the age of 14, he eventually became homeless. Now, all this is really important to understand what led him to commit this crime. So the crime itself was Stephen entered a cab, and when he entered the cab, he was rummaging through stuff. The cab driver pulled over, Stephen got into the driver's seat, sped away at speeds of 80 to 100 kilometers an hour in downtown Vancouver. This was all in early 2017. Now, while entering at these high speeds, a four-way intersection, he collided with a minivan with one passenger on board. He then fled that scene with the car on fire and entered into a woman's car at the intersection, where he forcefully entered onto her lap and hit the accelerator, and then a pedestrian intervened, pulled him off, and he was arrested there. Now, that story doesn't end there, because Stephen was actually seeking treatment for his drug addiction. He was prescribed, hope I pronounce this right, Suboxone, which is an opioid antagonist, which helps addicts with recovery. Now, it's very important when you take these drugs in your cycle, and he took it at the wrong time, which led to a manic episode where he didn't really understand what reality was and really hurt him overall. Now, that doesn't excuse his crime, and he actually pled guilty at trial for the crimes that he had committed. But the court reflected on all of his past trauma that he had faced. Now, I applied the social interactivism to this case because I thought that it really well explains his life into crime, because it goes further than just, oh, he's a criminal. Every interaction he had at a young age was against social norms. None of it really ever made any sense to him. He was always looked upon in a bad manner. He was abused both domestically and sexually, which doesn't give a good self-image to himself. And he was almost doomed from the beginning. Now, there's this important quote I wanted to bring up that from page 45 of the textbook that says, "People can misdefine situations, act inappropriately, and become deviant. Thus, a misreading of situational guidelines can lead to rule-violating behavior," meaning that he wasn't excused from doing what he did, but it makes sense when you look at it as a whole picture of he never understood what normal life was supposed to be. And that has to do with the Indigenous intergenerational trauma that he has suffered from and has actually passed down to his daughter, who he doesn't see ever. Now, I came to all these conclusions because of the research I did about the case study itself, reading the case and the court filings, and it really helped to paint a whole picture, and I'm really happy that the case went the way it did. Now, his actions were wrong, but when you look at everything as a whole, it really helps to explain why things happen the way they do, and why it is important to address things not just on a surface level, but with deeper meaning in mind. I hope you enjoyed, and